beeping, so I think that means everything's working.
Okay, cool.
I don't want this distraction either. The first thing that I want to know about Maggot Heart is that I like the idea that Maggot Heart as a name is something that like I can wear on a shirt and, you know, like either go to like a grindcore show and people will be like, yeah, or like if I'm just out in public, people will look at it and just be like, that's, you know, probably sounds like something that I wouldn't listen to, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not like a grindcore,
No.
like death metal type of thing. It's got like the sound that people who will probably look at the name and think like I wouldn't listen to that probably would listen to and really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's kind of like just that. I think that's in Sweden we call it a red thread of the band, like something that keeps reoccurring about the band. It's like this thing where we might like, I don't know, point you in a certain direction, but then like what you see isn't always exactly what you get. I think that a thing like that is probably something that I thought was really cool when I named the band, because I named it after Funkadelic, like the Maggot Brain record. But as you say, a lot of people kind of see it as something that would be more like towards, you know, death metal or grindcore or whatever. I thought that that was fun, and I think some people like really kind of appreciate that thing of a little bit like mixing pop cultural references or like mixing genres or references in general. But reality is also that I don't think that it's done us like that many favors, to be completely honest. You know, it's something that I thought was kind of cool, but it also throws people off. And maybe like, you know, we play with a lot of metal bands and we come from the metal scene, but we're not a metal band in my opinion. So maybe it's kind of like also, maybe I painted myself into a corner a little bit there, like with that. But I do like it as well, and I'm glad that you like that. It's kind of, it has, there's some layers to it, if that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's something that, you know, like, and I think the thing about it too is like if you were to go to like a metal show, like a grindcore show, like that kind of, you know, audience, and have that shirt, and they'll be like, oh, well, I would like this, and then they go home expecting one thing and they hear something else, but they still might like it when they listen to it.
Exactly.
You know? So
that's really true, and we do have like I would say there is mostly metal fans like listening to our music, but it's due to the fact that I think a lot of metal fans have a much broader, like they're much more open to other types of music than that type of people get credit for. Definitely more than, I mean, I was like, oh, you know, this would probably work for someone who's, you know, into something more like, I don't know, like just more like indie rock or like post-punk stuff and whatever. That crowd doesn't want anything to do with us. So it's like, I think that like the metal scene definitely is a bit more open-minded that they get credit for.
Yeah, it's like it's like you're not heavy enough for metal, but you're not like too heavy. Like it's like you're too heavy to be in the.
It's definitely a situation like that. Like we're kind of, I don't know, again like a Swedish expression, but you're like falling in between the chairs. That like, you know, you're kind of like in between two chairs, and you're falling in between them. I mean, that to me is like what I am proud of when it comes to the music, because I think it's unique in that sense. And it's not gonna appeal to that. It's not gonna appeal to that many people, you know, because it's like, it's a little bit harder to pinpoint maybe. But that's okay with me, you know. Like I am not really. I think it's better to have like a stronger connection with the few people that are there than to have like a I don't know, more shallow connection with a bigger audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely not going to be one of those bands where it's like you're on a bill with like 6 other bands and you all sound exactly the same, you know?
Exactly, that's very true.
You know, it's just like, okay, well, this band sounds kind of like all these other bands, so I'm going to like them because they all, you know, are kind of along the same lines, but it's just, it's hard for me even, like, to think about, like, who, you know, what you would be, like, in terms of, like, who you could tour with, like, to play with to have a similar sound.
Yeah, definitely. That's true, and I mean, we've toured with like mainly like heavier bands, but yeah, but I mean, we don't sound anything like them. I mean, tonight, like, there's like a huge difference between the bands. But again, like I said, it's mostly kind of like heavier bands that are open to having a band like us on the bill. Whereas like something that is a little less heavy, they don't really want to touch us. I feel. I mean, we toured with Voivod, and Voivod is it's one of my favorite bands of all time. They are also quite like they have like their own sound that is quite like crossover, but still very much metal, I would say. So yeah.
It's just, I like listening to stuff that doesn't sound like anything else, but then it's hard when, you can't just be like, oh, well, if you like this band, then you're going to like this band.
Yeah.
When you can't tell people that, it makes it more difficult to try to
Yeah.
get into it, but...
Definitely, and I also think that, like, when I read reviews or whatever, or, like, even on, like, sort of Spotify, like the algorithm there of kind of like, or, like fans, people that listen to this, they also listen to that, and I'm like, I don't see this, like, at all. And it's not like I'm trying to make like my music sound like super special or anything. Like it's just that I sometimes also find like journalists like I don't know, like the random reference doesn't really seem to be super on point sometimes, or like very like broad. Especially since I'm a female singer, I think that like I get compared to just about literally anyone that is a woman that is singing. Like I've heard like everything from like Doro, who's like a super heavy metal 80s singer, to like Emil and the Sniffers, which is not what I do at all. Like nothing against this, it's just like I really don't see it. To like Lana Del Rey, like this kind of like very like broad, and I don't know, the span there is like huge, and I don't see any of those like have anything to do with what I do.
They just grab like the easiest thing
yeah,
that they kind of can put you into.
I also think that like like men writing about women, it would be like, oh, like the first sort of like other woman that comes to mind, like so.
It's hard. It's I mean, like, and for me too, like growing up, it was hard because like it's like for every band that you would listen to like during grunge and stuff like that, it was like there's always like 20 to 30 bands that were voiced by like a man, and then like one or something like that, and like one die, right? And then there's like like one band by like with like a woman fronting it and stuff. So
no, sure, and I get that, but I also think that you could compare a female singer to a male singer. I mean, you don't have to go like by gender,
like,
exactly. So that's a little bit weird. Like then I feel like then you're not really listening to like the expression or whatever. Then you're just like looking at the gender.
Just like the whole like atmosphere of like the rest of the music and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and I think that that's like something that is also kind of I really like when like male artists talk about their women, their female influences, because it's often a question that you get as a woman, like, oh, what are your other female influences? But I think it's really important that like you kind of that male artists show that they have female influences too, So it's more about like the expression, or maybe like the artistry rather than the most obvious thing.
So you have a new album out that's on record. How important do you feel like physical media is in music right now?
So, do you want to check that everything is?
I think the camera's dead, but this thing's still going.
Yeah.
So that can stay dead.
Do you want me to record it on my phone as well?
This is going to be good. I think
Yeah.
This is fine.
Okay, cool. Well, in music in general, I have no idea. But for us, it's important. I started a label a few years back when COVID hit, and it's just something that feels like completely like it feels like a completely abstract thought to not deal with physical, like a physical product of music. I am not like I'm still of that generation where I didn't, grow up with MP3s, so it's something that is just synonymous with music for me, really.
It's like for me, I think it's always just the way that, I've always had like cassettes and then records and stuff, and so it's like you always kind of have them where you can see them, so you can go and be like, oh look, and then go and play it. But it's like I listen to Spotify a lot when I'm in the car.
Yeah.
And
sure.
From month to month, it's like what I'm listening to on Spotify might change.
Yeah.
So it just seems like when you have something that's not physical, like in that like streaming way, it's more fleeting. Like it's something that can change in time, where it's just kind of like, okay, well now we moved on to this thing, and so.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, it's more like actually, to be honest, like I really like looking at my records and also my CDs, to be honest, because I don't know, it's just like the generation where I grew up. Like I like the way that they look. And I don't very often like take out a CD or even a record, like for some reason. I don't like go and listen to, like I would like I more listen to Spotify or whatever is on my computer. But I really like looking at it and like holding it and I don't know, like organizing it and things like that. So, like, to me, it's sort of like, it's the same with books to some extent. Like, obviously, it will be something that I read or have read, but I'm not going to, like, deal with it that much. I like to kind of, like, put it into the bookshelf and, like, have it as a part of, I don't know, like, it's, like, part of the interior, in a way. And don't get me wrong, I listen to music, but it's just like that's sort of where I'm at. Yeah.
There's something nice to me about cassettes and records where you have like two different sides, so you can kind of dictate like, okay, this side's going to go this way, and then this side's going to like be this way, and just the completeness of an album.
Yeah, definitely. And I I have some very vivid memories of growing up with cassettes. Like I had Thriller by Michael Jackson on a cassette. And my mom had this mixtape of 60s soul classics, sort of, and I would listen to that a lot. And obviously, like I also made my own mixtapes, and even like I had like pen pals when I was young, and we would like record instead of writing a letter, we would like record our voices like on a tape and send it. And the thing of like side A and side B, yeah, definitely, it's like a storytelling, isn't it? Kind of, it's a story from with chapters, yeah.
It gives you like that little kind of like intermission in between when you have to change sides, where you're just like, okay, now you come back on the other side and you like can kind of almost like start over what you were doing too, so you can come back like louder and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we like we think like that when we, even though I mean that's a total given. Like when we make the track list for the records, that we talk about side A and side B. Still, even though like most people are not gonna listen to it like that. So it's definitely like, okay, so is it going to be a A1 or is it going to be a B1? You want something that kind of like hits a certain way. And then, it would be like making like a perfect equation, of the most, I don't know, sometimes I think like the most important songs will be then like the first one on side A and the last one on side A, and then the first one on side B and the last one on side B. But the last one on side B cannot be the same as the last one on side A, because that's like a different arc, And
that's like the end. So.
Yeah, exactly. And And yeah, that's how we definitely think in those terms.
So then, one of my favorite songs, because of the lyrics too, which is probably one of the most unique songs on your new album, is The Archer, because I like the idea of like sometimes being the archer and sometimes being the arrow.
Yeah.
I had Chinese food on Sunday, and my fortune says, to be sure of hitting the target, shoot first and call whatever you hit the target.
Amazing.
I thought that was kind of fitting for it too.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I love that. So prophetic.
And it's true that, you know, sometimes you feel like you're in control and sometimes you feel like you're being shot like an arrow. And
yeah, it's, I think like the like this the symbol of the archer can stand for so many different things, and sometimes I like to kind of have like a focal point that will be something of representation for like the whole record, and that's what like the art, or like the bow and the arrow became like my kind of yeah, like something that I was coming back to as sorry, I was a little bit tired, as the representation for the whole record. And it was just, yeah, like the idea of it can stand for so many things. It's like the you know, the kind of like the tension like right before letting go, which is something that we all feel in certain, like in different kind of situations. Also, you know, this kind of like spiritual, more like, yeah, more spiritual way of looking at something, like hitting your target in a trajectory that is like, yeah, like a divine trajectory, which sounds very abstract, but it's like kind of these terms that I think about. And then also, like, you know, if you think about like bow and arrow, it could be like in terms of love or infatuation, you know, like Cupid with the bow and arrow. And like in more like psychosexual terms, like if you think the bow representing the female and the arrow representing the male. And a lot of thoughts around, you know, exactly, are you like being a hunter or being the prey, and in which situations you are which. So yeah, there was a lot of thoughts around stuff like that.
like with the album title Hunger too, I thought about that too, where
yeah.
it's like, you know, are you going out and like hunting and getting your food, or are you being hunted like for food?
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly the idea like around it, because I feel that's a question I ask myself a lot. And I feel also that like this sort of like drive, like the hunger, like this kind of like ambition or this like primal force is something that sometimes like spills over into being it's not necessity anymore. It becomes greed, or it becomes something that's more like a destructive force, or something that will burn you out rather than like nourish you. And I was also thinking about a burning match a lot, like for the record, like, you know, like a match that is burning, but you know, a match that is burned out is just completely useless, you know. It's like, so how to like keep the flame alive but not burn out.
It's like tough with the idea of hunger, because I think of it like, in some ways, like you have to like kind of be hungry, like you have to kind of have something that you want, that you're going for, like goals, to kind of like stay, you know, focused, to stay like alive and things like that. But then if you feel like you have everything, it's like you may get complacent, or it could lead you to be like, well, you know, like I have $1 million now, I need $2 million, and then, you know, it's like it becomes that greed. And
exactly. And there's that like Buddhist thinking of your desires being the root of all of your suffering. So if you eliminate your desires, you will find bliss, basically. And I sometimes feel that I'm a complete slave to my desires. And a lot around this record, like it was just like really, it was a real like fight to make it. Like it was not particularly easy, and I often feel like, you know, I have this kind of like goal, like I want to do something with my music, and I have to get there, like regardless of the cost, you know. And that kind of thinking, I think, yeah, I mean, it's a bit hit or miss, isn't it? You know, it can definitely get you places, or it can just, yeah, like I said, can just like burn you out.
So what are your goals for this album?
So now that record is finally out, I'm so close to that burnout point that I've been talking about. So now it's just like, I'm just happy to get through this tour, and then I hope to take it a bit easy, to be honest. Like, I am really happy that the record is out, and I'm really happy with the record. I think it sounds really great, and it's probably the best music that we've done. So the goals right now, I mean, I think that you kind of like have to separate also, you know, what it is, like what it is that you deem as success, or what is like ambition, what kind of like what form does the ambition take? Because sometimes it can be so easy to kind of like lose track of what exactly your goals are. And I've always said that my goal is that I just want to become like the best songwriter that I can be. And I want to, you know, like I want to develop, and I want to do something new each time. So in some ways, I feel like this record is probably like the closing of a chapter of Maggot Heart. Like we've done 3 albums, and I hope we will make many more. But like it's some sort of like closing of an era. I think I see myself doing something very different on the next one.
It's gonna be even harder to get you into like categories, like
I look forward to that though, because I feel like in some ways it's like, you know, you know, even though I say that, oh, you know, like I do my thing, and I don't need, like, you know, I don't need to be a part of anything else, but it's like it's quite difficult, you know, like it's sort of that thing where I don't want to be a part of this club, but I'm also like pissed that they don't invite me. You know, like, and I feel like that's probably like a very destructive way for me to look at my music, or like my quote unquote like career. And I think that I should really just sort of like look inwards and just focus on what I said, like making my music, and not try to get so affected about what's going on around me. Yeah.
So to kind of shift gears about what's going on around you, you've done like the live listening parties on Bandcamp. So how do you feel about what's going on over there right now?
Yeah. So I'm not super up to speed about what's happened. I know that like they sold, like Epic Games sold it to Songtrader, right? And I saw that some of their writers were writing about it, and I saw that there were some layoffs. But otherwise, apart from that, I don't really know how it's going to affect an artist like me. So maybe you can fill me in, or...
A lot of musicians, and by that I mean, like, I think I've seen like 2 or 3 are like, you know, we're going to have to go back to the old days where we just tour and like push our physical merch and, you know, reach people that way. Like, so
they're changing the terms.
I'm not sure that anything's changing about Bandcamp, though, in the grand sense of it. I think there's going to be more work for less people, but...
Yeah, I see.
I mean, I don't think anything's going to change in terms of, like, Bandcamp hosting the music and hosting the stuff to sell, I mean, they could end up taking more money from you, but that's something they could have done anyway.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, Bandcamp has been like a real, like, I mean, it's made all the difference for a band like us, like a band of our level and a band that is like, that is independent. So yeah, I really hope it stays the same. Apart from that, I feel like I don't really have much to say about it right now.
Other than emails, it's like I find out all my music from Bandcamp too, so it's just, you know, like not going on there and be able to like browse genres and stuff like that is just going to be strange, because nowhere else like has the same like qualifiers where it's like you search for something and then it like gives you all these lists.
So is it, you won't be able to do this anymore?
I'm thinking that you can, as far as I know. I don't know.
Oh, wow, okay.
I think from what I can understand, the only like the too long didn't read version of it is that like the only thing they're kind of going to scale back on is like the editorial part of it.
Yeah.
So they're going to kind of go back to where it was just.
Yeah, that's a real shame, because it was also very well written, I think, and like very well curated. Like that part.
And it's like you're there to find music anyway.
Yeah.
So if you go onto the main page and it's like, here's a band in the spotlight, you know, you might take a listen to it and see what they sound like, and you know, and there's different, you know, here's the best cassette labels for this month, and you know, that sort of thing. And so that it helps to open up people to so much new music, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, that's a real shame. I'm sorry to hear that.
So it's just going to kind of go back to being like a commerce website.
Right, I see. Okay.
That makes them money as opposed to making them spend money, I guess.
Yeah,
so.
sure, okay.
But I don't know. I'm going to write like 10 times more things now. Like now it's all going to fall on just like people having like blogs and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a good thing for you then.
It's hard though, because like 99% of my thinking about writing about music is that music reviews are pointless. And as someone who writes like a lot of music reviews, I very much feel that way, even though I still do it. Because when I started writing about music, it was like you had to go to the store and buy like a CD if you wanted to hear like the whole album, like that sort of idea. But now it's like, you know, there's no point in reading like, you know, 8, 10 paragraphs or whatever about what somebody thinks about something when you can just press play on Spotify and listen to a couple songs and be like, oh.
Yeah, sure, but you can also look at it like in a way that, I mean, you're an artist of your own. You are, you know, this is your art.
So it's like if people listen to me, then I don't know why they listen to me, but I mean, it's probably partly too because I don't really read what other people write, which is bad, but I think if I, you know, I've always felt like if I read what other people thought, then that would influence me to be like, yeah, I agree with that. That's what this sounds like.
I think that that's really true, though. When I was a journalist I was a music journalist like way back, and like the hive mind around music is real, you know. So maybe it's good for you because you won't, you know. Yeah, you'll just like really keep your own opinion, or your first opinion to yourself, at least, you know.
Because it's hard when it's like, you know, everybody likes something or dislikes something, and then you just feel like, you know, when you have that going into it, you're just like, yeah, they're right, this is bad, and it's like maybe if you didn't think that going into it, then you would feel different about it, and you would like it or something. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of the people go and they like things and they don't know why. It's just because everybody else likes them, or they're, you know, they're kind of told to like them. They're like, this is good, and you'll like this, and it's like, okay, I like this, and it's like, why do you like this? I don't know.
Yeah,
everybody else does.
But that's exactly that's humankind in a nutshell.
That's how we get pop music.
I love a lot of rap though.
I like pop music to a certain extent, but I won't write about it because I feel like too many people write about it, so it's not worth my time like to say what other people are saying or something like that. So I try to focus on things that I feel like people don't necessarily want to talk about as much. So I don't know. But then I'm always in that scenario where I feel like, you know, it's like these people who have, like, you know, you look at their Spotify and it's like they have 20 listeners per month, and I'm just like, well, they should be playing like sold out stadiums, like making like $10,000 a show or something like that. Like, what, you know, like that sort of thing. Like, I always look at people like for their art and not like how like society necessarily views them in the sense.
That's great. That's what a good journalist should do.
I think a lot more people deserve a lot more credit than they get and stuff, and it's just like, this is a good place to play, but it's like, I'm like, okay, next time you come here though, like to Connecticut, like you're not going to be here, you're going to be in like a bigger venue, I know it, so I'm just like.
Oh wow, that's really kind of you. I don't know about that, but yeah.
I'm, you know, Connecticut has not let me down so far. I used to live here, and then I moved away, and then I came back. So since I've been back and like out of the pandemic and gone to shows, Connecticut hasn't really let me down. That like you think like, well, it's a Wednesday night and like this and that, but like I'm expecting people are gonna show up.
Okay, that's great to hear. Yeah, I mean I keep my expectations very low, and then I don't get it disappointed. And I feel like I kind of thrive in in a position of an underdog. Like I really don't mind like playing in front of like 5 people.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's cool. You know, they're there. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Simple as that.
I like when there's not a lot of people because I can kind of move around and do what I want. You're not like elbow to elbow, like touching people, but then, you know, I was like, why is there no one here? Do they know what they're missing? Like, and you know.
Yeah.
But then if people do show up, I'm like, it's a weekday. People have school and work tomorrow. Why
I
are
actually played this venue before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played here we were on tour with Earthless back in 2019. We played here.
Did you play the big one or the little part?
There's 2?
There's like a little room that like they use sometimes, and that's.
No, it was the same. It was the big one.
The big one, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the little one is not as fun to be in either.
Yeah.
That's the first time I came here. I went to the little room and I was just like, this is terrible. Why aren't we in the big room? They have a big room. Why are we there? It was too, you know, you couldn't move for anything. So.
Right.
But the big room is nice because you have space and you can kind of spread out and yeah, it's a space ballroom. But yeah, I just think it's going to be. I think people will show up. I think.
Great. Yeah.
I think that they know what's going on. I guess the metal people will show up.
Yeah.
We have a good like hardcore scene, so
okay, that's cool.
hopefully some of the people I know from the hardcore scene will be here too, but we just don't have a local opener.
Yeah.
That's all we're missing. But then it's like that's the whole thing too. Like I think about this show and I'm like, okay, well, if there was going to be a local opener, and Connecticut has a very diverse scene.
There was an opener actually on the bill, but they just I don't know what happened. They're not playing for some reason.
So there was someone and then they like dropped off.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
I don't know what happened. I just heard.
Our scene's a mess. No, it's good though. It's not a complete mess, but it's okay.
Yeah.
This is where I ramble and run out of ideas, so.
Yeah, no worries.
So, okay. I think that's good though, cause.
Great. You feel like you have what you needed?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like a half